Hey guys, we are an hour late today, and that's because we had a power outage. Apparently, two droplets of rain cause power outages. Well, I kinda knew that actually. Here, if the weather changes at all, it's just weird. And literally, we got about 2 spots of rain. My wife on leaving says, keep an eye on the carpet in the back if it's flooded. Yeah, it looks as if I actually thought it never rained. But anyway, power went out back about half an hour ago, and here we go. So, for those who were looking for Aurora Borealis, it's actually there. Right? And today what we're going to do... Yes, we moved to Unreal Engine 5 over the weekend. That's why there was no videos, because basically it would have been us sitting watching things upload. Now, we do have some interesting things going on here. See how some things are not it's kinda weird, right? Now, I don't know if that happens in the game, so let's take a check on that. Right? I can't remember, it was somebody last night who commented, oh, we could do with Aurora Borealis. Well, as I said, it's kinda random whether there is one or not in the sky on that particular day. Or night, obviously. So, oh yeah, I added a monster as well, even though he can't move around, right? So we can actually shoot him as per stuff working. Pretty cool, huh? The thing is, we might need to do something with that material. Alright, we're going to run down to the docks, because I want to see... Hi, Sunset Sets, how are you? Right, look at that. Those assets are not loading in. Maybe we need to do something on the... because they're definitely not loading in very good. Right, they are loading in, you can see them actually loading in, but they're quite far away, or sorry, nowhere near loading into the right thing. Have you been here before, Sunset Sets? I kind of recognise your voice, your name, but I'm not sure on that one. Now, the next thing I want to check... level sequencer. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, fire away, but I'm not an expert on that thing. In fact, I'm so much of not an expert that I can't remember much about it. Right, this here is we want to check out how much light we're giving out here with these emissives, right? So what we want to do is a wee right clicky boy and a wee play from here. Now, I did absolutely ramp up the emissive on these. And, well, that's not a good idea. I'm not too sure where I can go. Okay. Right, what we'll do is we'll go to the top, right? Hopefully this is the top. I'm guessing, of course, here. Right, so that's not the top. Right, okay. What's this question? I'm waiting here so that I can't answer. Right, where's these caves? I'm guessing the caves aren't actually over there, they're over here. Right, I'm guessing I can stand here, right? And the question is, how much light do these give off in reality? The answer is not a lot. Well, actually, you know what? The answer is quite a lot, but the caves don't lend themselves very well to it. Seems to be the answer here. I.e., you can't really see where you're going as such. Right, you can't really see. You tell me, guys, if you can see the cave well, let me know. Right? It might be the lighting in my room that's making it worse or something like that. But I can't really, you can kind of see it, but it's not great. And the only thing I can think of doing here, right, is going to here and bumping up the missive even more, but the missive is now becoming ridiculous. Right, if I bang that to 100, right? I mean, you can see the difference, but I want to ask a question, but it's not about Unreal Engine. Right, number one, I'm not Irish. Right, I'm Scottish, right? So, number one, that kind of eliminates me from being able to tell you how. All I can tell you is Irish people don't speak Irish, and Scottish people don't speak Scottish. The language you refer to is Gaelic. Now, I'm guessing that there's Irish Gaelic and Scottish Gaelic, and I would be guessing on this, right? But I'll give you my. It's only people really in the north of Scotland that have any sort of contact with Gaelic. or learn it as, you know, in normal conversation. So I'm guessing there's crossovers between Irish Gaelic and Scottish Gaelic, but I'm guessing that they probably aren't exactly the same. And I only know one saying in Gaelic. Right, so these don't give out enough light. They do give out light, right? Because you can see stuff around, but it's not. It's like in a very small radius, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to punch that straight back to what it was initially, which means that we're probably going to have to do an input and output for our point lights. Okay, so will we do that? Oh yeah, and my one thing I can say in Gaelic is Donny Murdo, which is danger mouse. Okay, that is the one thing I know in Gaelic. So yeah, I would say about 5% at the most speak any kind of Gaelic, and most of those will be from the North and Islands. Right, so it looks like we're going to have to do no, they're not supposed to be harvestable, they're just in. They're not supposed to be, put it that way, right? Now, your problem with that is, right, here's a game design problem. So let's all talk about it, right? So if I went into the cave, right? Now imagine these were harvestable. And also imagine these were the light source. If you harvest these, where does the light come from? Logically. Now, I do actually have an answer for this that I've just thought up. But you guys, if you harvest this, where does the light come from? I'll give you a second. Well, you could have something where these are harvestable, right? Certainly it's doable, right? But the problem is, if you were to incorporate that, how do you introduce logically the light into these caves? That's the question. Well, the way I would do it is I would have the harvestable stuff on the ground, and then I would have things like these ones up above that you can't reach, which leaves you able to get the light. Yeah? If that was the case, that's the way I would go about it, right? Not necessarily a perfect answer, but It is an answer. So, what we want to do is, we probably want to open a notepad, right, and take note of some of these issues that we're going to have to actually I'm going to say emissive doesn't give enough thrown light in caves, so that this will be addressed. Okay. And then we shall save that for later. Right. So I'm going to have to investigate that. There may be something that you've got to do in the master material or something. It might actually be okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the project in 4.27 on the other screen and start having a look at moving stuff across. Okay. Other than the blueprints, sorry, other than the meshes. Right, we are going to move in the blueprint stuff. So anyway, Cyber Shell, if I was to make those harvestable, I would also add some of them that aren't harvestable up on the walls where you couldn't reach. Oh, thank you, Pluto 100. And why did I do that? I've just loaded the whole thing again, like a complete and utter muppet. Okay, if you ever do this, right, and there is reason to do it, that sometimes you load up to things no, I don't think you should move to 5.2. I think you should wait until it has been tested a bit. You should wait until it's been tested a bit and basically run in and some teething problems, because there's still teething problems with 5.1. The very first thing that I did in 5.1 when I tried to do it, it was causing an issue that hasn't been fixed since version 5, and it's basically that some nodes don't appear unless you don't appear in the list, right? It was a for each loop. Right, now going into an even newer version might exacerbate that problem. So I don't think it's a great idea. Right, now if you've still got a long time to go in your project, then it might not be such a big issue, because as they're fixing the issues, you'll be working on your game, and your game might not release for a year. in which case probably 5.2 will be the standard by then, and it will be perfectly acceptable to do it, right? But if you're launching in a month's time, then no, stick to the version you're on and just finish it. Because probably, and here's the problem, right? This is the thing that indie developers and people learning Unreal Engine 5, here is the problem that they run into, that I find the most, right? You will see them and they'll be like, oh, look at this brand new feature in 5.2, isn't it fantastic? Well, yeah, it might be fantastic, right? But number one, your game probably doesn't need it and doesn't use it, right? And the second point is that it's just yet another thing that you have to master, along with everything else that you haven't mastered yet, because you're so hung up on all these new features that you never learn the basic features and how to put a game together, right? So take all of that into consideration, right? If 5.2 does not do anything for your game specifically, then why bother? Right? The only reason that we moved this to 5.2, or sorry, 5.1 or 5 at all, was the fact that it makes level streaming a lot easier for us. Right? Now, obviously there were downsides, right? But that's the only reason we moved. Otherwise, we would have left it in 4.27, right? I know everybody says the game looks better. I just think it's because you think it should look better. Just because it's in 5.1, right? To be quite honest, I don't think it looks any better. Right? Once everything's put together, it looks really nice. But it looked really nice in 4.27. Right? And the only thing that Nanite's doing is using the higher texture models, the higher textures for the models, right? And if you haven't got higher texture models, then it's not going to make any difference. And we've not implemented Lumen yet, so yeah, that might make a difference, but we're going to have to implement it first. So there's no simple answer, right, to these things. It's all trade-offs, right? You might lose performance in 5.1 if you add Lumen in and Nanite, right? Where you're gaining some in level streaming, you're losing it in another place. Right, where you gain a feature that you might think will suit your game, well, it also might be too taxing, right? As I said, to these questions, there's never a simple answer of, yes, you should, no, you shouldn't, right? It just doesn't work like that. So anyway, you'll notice that these have got things missing, and that's because basically there was a bloody house here, right? And it was a blueprint, and since we haven't moved any blueprints, then we've got empty spaces for the houses. So I'm now doing something off screen, which is to basically, I'll have to load this up first actually. I'm going to load up stuff in 4.27 and then start moving it across manually. Now, some of these things as well, and here is your other problem, right? If stuff doesn't come across properly, right? You might have to spend a lot of time transferring stuff between versions because it doesn't exactly work how you think it's going to work. Right now, if you have no experience with, let's say, for example, editor widgets, where you can write the import and export scripts, then you're going to have to sit there and do it all manually, which ain't going to be much fun, because I'm going to show you what I'm going to have to do in a minute. Right? So basically, what I'm going to do, right, is fundamentally there is a Viking ship right here, and there's also one, let's see, right, there's one here and there's one on this side. Okay, and what I'm going to have to do is click on that Viking ship, get the location, then I'm going to have to find out what that Viking ship is. Right, now here it's here. It's Viking boat, sails down. Right, so we're going to have to browse to that. I'm going to minimize that. Right, now what I'm going to have to do now is we're going to have to go to blueprints, and it's this one here. So I'm going to have to drag it in. Now the interesting thing here we could do, we could do an import export on actors, right? It's not going to do the settings on the actor, but it is going to bring the actor in, right? So the interesting thing here, that makes sense, but we are going to have to check each actor, and you'll see how long this takes to bring this darn thing in. Right, I tell you what guys, that's what we're going to do. Right? Smash. Hi, can you make game for my... Yeah. Join the Discord and let me know how much you're paying per hour, and we can certainly work something out for that. Right, this has basically decided that it's going to sit and look at me for a while. Oh, we've got a boat. We have a boat, folks. And basically what I did was I just deleted that. Right. We're going to have to remove that. Viking boat. Delete. I've got time if you've got the money. Sure, that's for a song somewhere. Right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our editor helpers, right? And god damn it, we have to do this in 4.27. Gordon Bennett. Right, I'm going to have to open up 4.27 again. God damn it. This is also going to save us a lot of time. I think my colleague is going to be stunned at this. Why would I ever use BitTorrent? Who uses BitTorrent? Why would you do that? Anyway. Don't worry about money. Well, you must have lots then if I don't need to worry about it. So yeah, join me in Discord and we can talk about it after the stream. Links are in the description. Right, so we're going to load up 4.27 again, right? And we're going to write basically the same thing as our other export, okay? Except we're going to change the file name a bit. I don't know what else we're going to need to change. Right, it's going to have to be as generic as possible, right? Because the actor, we don't know what the actor is, right? So we can't, unless we were doing it on a specific actor basis. Obviously, let's say an actor, a monster, has different attributes than an actor house, right? So unless we were doing separate ones for an actor house, and then basically doing the logic to switch between the two and then load in the variables for that, then which is going to end up being very complicated because then you'd have to find out every single actor that you're using or blueprint, right? I'm going to split between referring to blueprints and actors, right? But basically we'd have to find out if it was a house, right? Then once we find out a house, we'd have to set up structures that tell us what variables we need to save regarding that house, right? And if it was a monster, we'd obviously have to save the things about the monster, alright? So I'm not 100% sure if this is even going to work right, but we're going to try it anyway because we're absolutely bonkers. So what we're going to do is we're going to say duplicate that, and we're not going to output SMs, static meshes, we are going to output BPs, right? And that is our water pump, if anybody's wondering. So we've got the same buttons, all the rest of it, we're quite happy. We're going to go to the graph, we're going to change it up, right? We're going to get all SMs, we're going to change this to all BPs. Right, and that will give us our second file. And then we're going to get actors. Right? And the interesting thing here is the rest of it is actually going to stay the same. Okay? Now, one of the things that we're going to have to check here is whether or not it actually does the same actors again. Like if a static mesh actor is considered an actor, okay? So we're going to have to find that out, right? And for this we're going to have to do for each again. Now we are going to run this a couple of times to check out what's going on. What's going on with this anyway? Well, we need to do that, that's for sure. And we're going to refresh nodes. And we're going to delete this one. We'll drag this back into place. Compile it. What's this one? Ah. Okay. Okay. I wonder if that goes straight into there. Right. Isn't that cool? Right. That's going to go straight in there, by the way. Right, so shall we have a test, guys? Shall we have a little test? So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to load up the map. Right. I'm going to have to load up that. Right, and then we're going to load up 3.0. Right, so we're only going to grab the stuff from 3.0, okay? Which is fine, because that's going to give us a nice test subject. Now, as I said, the thing I want to check here is whether or not we get... You can see we've got some nice blueprints there. Do we have... And it's picking up cues, and that's something we might do as well later. And it's definitely got some static meshes, right? So this is a very good subject, okay? So our next problem here is to open output SMs. So we run that widget. And we hit mesh because basically it's the same button, and it just runs that code that we actually interpreted or slightly amended. Hit that button, and now if we go to see SMs, it hasn't done it. Okay, so that's not good. Okay. So we know that this doesn't work. Right? It's not SMs we're doing, bud. It's BPs. Right. Now, the interesting thing here get display name. That's not going to make it crash though. Right, we're not doing the selected level. We can take that out. And oh, that could have been bad. Actually, that still could be bad. We might have just overwritten our SMs file. Right. I'll tell you in a minute if we have. Right, what we're going to have to do here no, I'm being an idiot. This is what happens when you get, that's okay. Delete that. Right, so that's okay. I think I might have just overwritten our SMs file, but we can overwrite it again, so don't worry about it. Right? So we minimize this, and that actually might have worked. We ran the wrong one, so we I don't know if we've overwritten it or not. Right, but we might have. We've got our BPs now, so let's see what we've got. We've got all of that, which is interesting. Now you'll notice it is doing static meshes. Okay. And it's doing these, it's doing certain things that we don't want. Right, and it's grabbing things that we don't want. Right, so this is doing quite a few weird different things with what we had originally. Right, now I'm going to delete this. Right, we're going to minimize that, and we're going to look at this again. Getting path name for loaded asset. Okay, I mean that sounds okay. But what we're gonna have to do here this is interesting. This is an interesting problem. And it's an interesting problem because we kinda don't want it right. First thing is, right, if we cast this to static mesh actor, right? We actually don't want it to do anything, right? So it's on cast failed that we actually move this to here, right? And there. And that goes to there, right? And it goes to here. But the problem is, there are certain things that we do want it to cast to, right? Like, for example, a point light. So we want to do point lights. And it might not be an actor, actually. But we'll find out soon enough. Right, but we don't want to do landscapes. We don't want to do landscape gizmos. We don't want to do a certain number of things. Right? So it's like we want it to get a bunch of actors. Right? And we basically want it to sort those actors into arrays of the type of actor it is. Right? And create an array for itself and any subsequent actors of that class. And then hopefully or in fact what I would have to do in that case was create an array of actors, right, and then go through that array and basically remove all the actors that I want to do something with. Then I'd have to compare each of the actors in the array to the blueprints that we want to move across, and I'm beginning to talk myself into the fact that I don't want to do this for the very reason I kind of knew I didn't want to do this. But the interesting thing here is not the static meshes on their own, right? It's to find out how many different types of actors we have and how many of those actors. So it might be worth, for example, writing an output point lights, right, that just basically does all the point lights because there's 150 of them, right? But it might not be worth doing it for 2 houses, right? It might not be worth doing it for NPCs, okay? Because we haven't put enough of them on the map to make it worth the bother, right? So that is my explanation of that. So if I was to run that editor widget and go, right, and we go to we'll probably have to close this. Go to here. And the best way to do this is to go to properties, and you'll notice it's not very big, right? And it's got nothing, right? So that's not right, obviously. So there's something not right in the code here. Alright, let's see what we're doing wrong. Right, let's try it with a specific thing. Right? What I'll do is let's delete that. Right, let's cast to point light. Now, my question here is a point light an actor? Pretty sure it is. Right? Now, if we do that, and that, compile that, go here, delete that. Right, now what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to load up a slightly different, I'm going to have to load up this, the caves, because I know that the caves has lots of point lights in it. Hi there, Sunbus Studio, if I didn't actually mention that before. Right, so if we do that, let's see what we've got. It has done something. Right, look at that. We have a point light. Okay. Now, the rather obvious question is, how many are there? Well, to be quite honest, don't know. Right, what we'd have to do is select all, and then basically paste it probably into WordPad. That's not really what we want to do. Oh, here comes the thunderstorm, guys. If I suddenly cut off, it's probably because we've had a power cut. Right? Okay, so there we go. Okay. So you'll notice that we are probably... I thought this told you where you kinda are. Apparently it doesn't. Right, okay. Now we could do this in several changes document, don't save. Right. Okay. So I'm going to delete this again, right? Right. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually do every single map. So I'm going to load every single map. right? We're going to basically do every single one. As I said, I don't know if there's any other point lights on any of these other maps, right? We're going to have to find out. Well, we won't find out. All we'll do is export them, right? But now we need to basically select maps in between. Right now, if you don't load up the maps all together in the persistent level, right, then it basically, the positions are not correct. Right, so a lot of this stuff is going to definitely not have point lights. This might be actually pointless, point light. But we need to do it anyway, just in case there is, and basically so that we make sure we've got the correct offsets. Right, these like cliff sections are not going to have point lights. Right, but we don't want to have to do this again, so it's as well just doing it right the first time. Now, alright, now we know it was 0.8k or something like that. 8 megabit, 8, God knows, don't remember. But anyway, output BPs go, right? Now, if we now look at these, right? And if we look in here, go to properties, it is bigger. So there's definitely point lights elsewhere on the map. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this, because if we want to do this again for something else, so we'll say PLs, okay? So we can now basically close down. It doesn't really matter, we'll just save it, right? Now we can open up our 5.1. Then we can basically duplicate this one, point lights. Okay, we come into here. We'll have a couple of things to change. Not very much, and it is going to be simpler. Now notice here we've got 6847, okay? That's quite an important thing. Right, so we're going to go to graph. Right, now, the interesting thing is we're going to spawn actor, except it's not going to be a static mesh, it's going to be a point light. I wonder if we can actually just change this to point light. Point light. We're going to set this. We're not going to get that. And we're basically not going to do any of that. And that's it. Okay. Compile that. That's good. Right, now we know for a fact right, that all of our point lights are in here, basically. Or we know a lot of them are. It looks to me like some of these have moved or something. Let's not worry too much about that for now. Right. What we're going to do is run this. Right. And we're going to say all, what was it, PLs? .txt. Now we're going to watch this number here and import blam. Okay, and look at that. We have our point lights. Now, I am guessing, I'm going to guess that if we say point light, we've got 319. Okay. If we select all them, and set them all to static, right? And that takes all our errors away. And basically now, look at that. All of our point lights are back. So there, my friends, is some boosty magic for you. So we can play from here, and this time we'll actually be able to see where we're going. Right, so we could look in the cave and we can start heading down into the cave. Okay. It is actually raining now, guys. Right, and on that bombshell, I'm going to grab a cigarette. So, if you're enjoying the stream, or you're finding it informative, hit like and subscribe. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Check out the description for various links to Discord. I'm not expecting Mash to actually join the Discord and actually message me, by the way. But, you know, you never know. Might be a surprise. Anyway, check the descriptions for Discord, my private Discord, the games Discord, previous game on Steam, Patreon, Kickstarter preview, and website. I'll be back in a minute, guys. Don't go anywhere. Okay guys, we're back. Right. So you can see from there, we can now actually see where we're going. Oh my god, I just fell down. But this is inside the caves. I don't actually, as I said, don't know where I'm going most of the time. And it probably needs. So you can see there we've basically lined up every single point light, and we'd have had to do that by hand, right? But the export import worked a treat, and now our cave is looking very nice, I do believe. What do you think, guys? Do you like the cave? I think it's a bit bright, but anyway, that's just my personal opinion. There are ladders and that in here. Haven't come across any yet. Oh yeah, that's because I haven't actually done the ladders, would you believe? Right, so in effect, we could basically now do another one for ladders, right? Which would be basically the same process. Now, I'm not going to put you through that again, right? I don't like doing that. But you can see that we've actually added a crap ton of point lights automatically. Okay, and you can see there's some other blueprints missing around here, right? So there's definitely some blueprints missing, but I need to find out exactly what they are, right, and how many of each to find out if it's actually worth creating a script for them. Right, I know for a fact this is 2 houses. Right? And I know for a fact over here, I know for a fact over there's a statue that sits in the middle of there. Right? And over in our rock city, we have a couple of like bridges and stuff that we need to load in. Like, not necessarily here, although that doesn't look quite right, but we'll not worry about that too much. Right, because we've got this thing here, which is obviously a blueprint, right, going up round here. That we need to work on. Right, so in effect, I shouldn't have closed down 4.27. Will I do a script for trees? No, I won't. Because that's just basically painting them on. And I don't know if I can actually extract the individual trees from a foliage thing. Right, what we might be, I mean, my colleague knows that he's going to have to do some things manually, right? There's no getting away from it. And that's one of the things, but anything I can help him with, Like for example 313 point lights, right? Obviously I'm probably going to have to help him anyway, right? Because there was 6, as I said, so that says over 7,000 items on the map, right? And that's just static meshes and point lights. Now if we were to do them across manually, I would have to help him, right? So I am basically helping myself doing this. I mean, the point here is I can easily do this, right? Because I've got all my point lights selected, right? And I can basically just turn the intensity down, right? I can make them half light and then just bang down, because I know that these, look at them, they're all the same. It doesn't even say various. The grasses are part of the landscape. They're actually drawn by, they're procedurally drawn. They are procedurally drawn, right? So the grass is automatically going to get done for us, right? Now what I've done there is I've turned down the intensity, right, of the lighting, and I have also turned down the attenuation, right, which means these aren't going as far. The attenuation radius is not anywhere near as far, okay? Now even at 500 that might be too much. Yeah, that's why I'm doing the scripts, bud. That's why I'm doing the scripts, because I know it's going to be a nightmare, right? And as I said, it's not just going to be a nightmare for my colleague, it's going to be a nightmare for me. If I was to do it, I would have to help, right? So I don't want to do that. I want to calm down with that shit, right? So if we set all our attenuation radiuses to 250, right, we get a much better I shouldn't have done that, damn it. Yeah, I could do that. They probably did have, right? It's just I basically did it with the default settings, right? When I loaded in the default settings, right, so we could do that. Okay, that, right? And if we go to number 316, there we go, right? Now in this case we probably do want to pump the attenuation up a bit, and maybe that's why we might want to do like that. And let's do that. Oh, I'm selecting one. Right. I think this is the way it was, right? So we're not doing anything that's kinda right, so we can say, let's say 3,000. Right, and we can say 300. And there's a better idea of how it looks. How's about that? And this was the entrance. Okay. And there we go. So what we could do now is we can play from here. And as you can see, we've got our nice lights. Okay. Pardon me, I'm stuck. Oh yeah. Right. So that's pretty cool. So now what I want to do is I want to find out how many ladders we have. Right. So to find out how many ladders we've got, we're going to have to load up 4.27, go to maps. Now the interesting thing here is, most likely, we're going to have to, right, so for example, in here, we're going to load this. Actually, no, we shouldn't have done that. I can unload it. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unload that. Right. And I'm going to go to our caves and I'm going to load that. Right. Now, you can see here that we've got a lot of if we do point light, we've got 314, right? So we can go from, we know there's a, well, we don't know if there's a 6, 7, 8 and 9 etc, but we know that there's 318, right? So if we go into 5.1 and there's 318, then we know every single one of them should be in that folder called ambient light, cave, ambient light, ambience, cave ambience, right? But what we actually really want to do is we want to find out any blueprints. And here's the ladders, right? Now, there's not an awful lot of them, right? So, if we click on that, we copy that, right? Then we go to basically 5.1. Now remember, we had 319, right? That is close enough, right? I'm going to call that close enough. There's basically one point light that isn't in the caves, right? Now where that point light is, I have no idea, but I'm not going to give a crap about it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to a new folder, right? And then I am basically going to rename this folder Can I rename you, please? Edit. Rename. Cave. Ambience. Right, let's call it that, shall we? Cave ambience. Right. Go ahead and delete that. So we've now got everything there, okay? And our next thing to do is we're going to go to interactive items, right? We're going to drag in a ladder. Okay. Then we're going to move it to the right position from 4.27. So what we'll do is we're going to, I would normally, when I'm going to do this after the stream, right? Once I've finished the stream and I'm doing this manually, what I'm going to do is obviously have this on a different screen, right? But we've got the scales 111. We've got our ladder there. So we don't need to worry about that. But what we're going to do is we're going to copy the rotation. Right? So our scale is 111. Then we're going to paste that. Then you can see it's now at a certain angle, right? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the location and copy that. Then we're going to check down here to see if anything is set, and there's basically nothing really, but we're going to check that once we've done it. Right, so we're going to go back to here and we're going to set the location. Right, now that's going to take it away. Right, but what we want to do is basically double click it and see where it's actually been set. Now, that does not look right to me. Okay, so this is where we find out where and how this isn't right. Ah, no, wait a minute. It looks to me like this has been edited. Right? There's something not right here. Okay? SM ladder 1. Okay. So it looks to me that this is half scale, right? For some reason. So it's just a case of checking this to see what's going on. Item type is not that, it's a ladder. Right? Object mess. It is SM ladder 1.